always say at least do better than last semester. And we're excited you're here. I see Elliot, Michael, Melissa. Michael, what's your major?
Biology.
Biology. Okay. So you're on campus.
Yeah.
Okay. And Elliot, your major? Maybe Elliot's getting a drink of water.
Elliot put in the chat that the major is zoology.
Oh, zoology. Okay. And you're on campus, yes? I think. Okay. I am going to be honest. I geared this towards online learners because that's our adult student population, but that's okay. A lot of this information, it doesn't matter if you're online or face to face. It's pretty much all the same. So I am as I said, Sandy Barganier, Dr. B. I'm a professor in the Department of Health Promotion and Wellness. I'm also the program coordinator for our new major called Integrative Professional Studies, which is an online degree geared towards adult learners, but you can take it on campus as well. And Lisa Brancato is with us, and she's the academic planning coordinator. You might also know her as an advisor in the Syracuse campus. So today we're going to talk briefly about what you can do to earn an A. And some of this just might be like common sense, but I've learned that it's not common at all. And, I'm entering my 39th year of teaching and my 36th year entering higher education. And I've been teaching online for the last 10 years. And before that, I've taught over 50 different topics courses at 5 different universities in 5 different states. So I have a lot of background in this. And it's interesting because this is, what are we entering now? Week 3 of the semester? I don't even know what we're on. And I'm always sort of amazed that time management is such a critical piece of doing well academically. And you're probably saying, hey, this is not what I came here to learn about. I know, but it's constant that people still struggle or are a little unsure about how to manage their time. I don't care how you manage your time, as long as you have a system. For some of you, it may be the paper-based calendar sitting on your desk, hanging on the refrigerator. Hopefully it doesn't get down to, just writing on the back of your hand and sticky notes. However, I've had some of the busiest days where I can't keep track, and this is how I have to manage it. So you got to do what works for you. Hopefully nowadays, many of you are using Google Calendar. You all have access to it through your SUNY Oswego Google Suites. And what's nice about using Google Calendar is if you have a phone and it syncs to the phone, it can sync to your tablet, it can be on your computer, it can be on your watch if you're one of those people. So any way you do it, you've got to get everything into your calendar. I'm going to talk about online learners, but also whether you're face-to-face, it doesn't matter. You need to know what is due. And for those of you right now, Michael, Melissa, Ellie, are you taking 15 credits? Are you taking 5 classes? If you're taking 1, if you're taking 5, it doesn't matter. You need to pull out every syllabus, or if you're online, you need to read the upcoming events section, and that basically pulls up a whole semester schedule for you with all the due dates. And every one of those due dates you have to put in your calendar. Like, I want you to hang up tonight from this and go put every due date in your calendar through December. Okay? Please make me that promise. Yes? Thumbs up. And it sounds silly, but if you're not looking ahead, you're not planning. The other thing I have found over the years that students have really struggled with, especially students who are adult learners coming back to school for the first time in a long time, is not understanding how much time you need to study and to learn. I've seen this a big transition from high school to college, and even from, let's say, Onondaga Community College or another community college to a 4-year school, comprehensive university like SUNY Oswego. We are a great university, and we are one of the top SUNYs, and we are rigorous, and we are tough. And you have to plan for every 1 hour that you spend in class. You have to think about planning 2 to 3 hours outside of class studying. So if you have a 3-credit course, you need to plan 6 to 9 hours of study time per week. If you're taking 15 credits, that's a full-time job of studying. And I don't think a lot of students really get that. And I'm amazed when I find students taking 15 credits, working 40 hours, raising a family, doing a side gig. And I'm going, how do you do it? And some people can, but a lot of people can't. And they struggle. and their grades reflect that. Their mental health reflects that. Their, it's not good for you. So really consider planning your study time. And what does study time look like for you? What is that? Well, for many of you, I see, we have two people in, zoology and biology, and Melissa is in human development. I mean, no matter what you're in, you're going to have to do a lot of reading. I mean, 4-year, BA or BS degree is reading and writing, a lot of reading and writing, and a lot of learning new material. That takes repetition. That takes time. So again, you're saying, what am I going to do for 2 or 3 hours each night? You're going to reread your chapter. You're going to reread your notes. You're going to rewrite your notes. You're going to listen to a lecture again. You're going to watch a video again. You're going to read that book again and again because you don't understand it the first 3 times. So those are things that you have to do. And maybe you didn't have to do that at community college. Maybe you didn't have to do that in high school, but you probably have to do it here. And I think a lot of people really don't understand that. So if you do have other things in your life going on, you also have to schedule those. So that would be your family time, exercise, commuting, your job, medical appointments. If you're a gamer, Netflix, sleep, you got to put it in the calendar, but you have to prioritize. And if you're doing 15 credits, if you're working a job or involved in clubs and activities or just having a social life, some of these things are going to have to go. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't watch TV until 4 years ago. Okay. I didn't know what Netflix was until COVID hit, because finally I got some time back in my life. I had never binged anything. I, missed the 90s and the 2000s because I was working, I was going to school, I was raising a family. You have to prioritize. And for me, I prioritized my job, my studying, my sleep, my health, and my family. So some things had to go. So you may have to prioritize and not do everything. All right. So think about what's most important to you. And for many of you right now, it is school. Any questions on the time management part? Just talk. You can speak. There's a small group. Anything you'd like to hear differently? Okay. I only got
I
15.
do have one question.
Yeah, Melissa, go ahead.
One of my professors doesn't list the assignments at all. She like every Sunday she posts what the assignments are and when they're due, and that's it. And then in the middle of the week she'll post that she changes the assignment date. And she's done that twice.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask who or what or topic, but and Lisa, feel free to jump in. To be honest, I would make an appointment with that professor and just say, you know what, you can say, you blame me, right? Say, hey, I just went to a talk last night, and Dr. Sandy Barganier said, it's really helpful if we know all of our assignments and due dates, ahead of time. Have you ever done that? Is there any way that you can share? And maybe that person doesn't want to do the whole semester because they're developing a new course. Maybe they're trying to see whether, real learning is, do you really understand it? And if you don't, they might need to go back and change the way they do things, or they might need to put off a test or an exam. So I get it. But you could say, is there any way that you could give us, a couple of weeks ahead of time? Because, I'm working, I'm commuting, I need to plan my life. The worst they can do is say no, right? And the best thing that can happen is they realize that's really important. Okay. So yeah, that's a toughie. And, a lot of it depends if they're an adjunct, if they're a part-time person, and maybe it's their first time doing this, versus somebody who's been doing this for a long time. But I would always address it tactfully, nicely, in a question format. Okay. And like I said, just say, hey, I went to this talk last night, and, blame me. Happy to talk with them. Okay. Just a couple other tips to do well in online classes. But again, this is face-to-face as well. The only thing I put on here is the online classes open up a week before the semester. I don't know if you know that, and you can go in and look around. Again, schedule your classes and your study time in your calendar. And this is I didn't number these, but the third one down, read all the course information, the syllabus, the communication, and the grades, the grading system. I can't emphasize this enough. Just today, I had 4 students send me an email through Oswego email. Okay. And you're saying, so what? Well, I make a video about how to communicate, about with me. I put it in the syllabus. I put it in my online course information. Students are not supposed to send me email through the SUNY Oswego email. They're supposed to do it through Brightspace. Okay. Why? Because I teach 4 online classes. I have over 100 students. I don't know who everybody is. And they're just saying, hey, Dr. B, it's Sally. What's up? I don't understand the assignment. I'm like, who's Sally? What class? What assignment? So right away I said, wow, those 4 people didn't listen to anything I say. They didn't read any of the directions. They didn't read the syllabus. They didn't read the course information start here. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to follow directions to get a good grade. I'm going to give you another quick example. My husband is an editor of an international journal. People submit articles from all around the world, experts, to get published in an academic journal. 70% are rejected within 1 minute by him. You know why? They didn't follow the directions. So even really smart people don't follow the directions and don't read. So do that. Read very, very carefully. Again, give yourself an hour to read each syllabus carefully, or the classroom assignment rules or submission rules. It's really important, and every class is different. Every class is different. Cross-check your assignments with modules. Make sure the syllabus matches what the professor says in class or what they say in the scheduling. We make mistakes, okay? We screw up. We have lots of things on our plate too. So just double check. Check the grade weights. This is very important. I know in my online classes, some of them, the discussions are 40 or 50% of the grade, and students aren't used to that. And they have to be written professionally and written formally. Quizzes might only be 10%. So pay attention to the grading system. You might think quizzes and tests are always the most important. They may not be. So check every syllabus about how important, like where they're weighting, what's most important. If it's papers, if it's class participation, then really focus on that to bump up those grades. If you're taking quizzes online or tests, are they open book? Do you have multiple attempts? Excuse me, if they're timed quizzes, you want to plan with your notes so you can use your time wisely. If there's grading rubrics provided for assignments, look at the rubric before you do the assignment. Read it carefully. Look at, what do I need to get an A on the rubric? And follow that step by step by step. Same thing with writing papers. If they give you, or discussions, if there's prompts, like questions to answer, follow it in that order exactly. Pardon me. If you have problems, go to office hours, ask to talk to the professor through Zoom, use the tutoring online, which is called Thinking Storm, or the Writing Center, or ask a librarian. And always try to submit your work on time or early. Again, Tuesday nights is a due date for my class. I'm always amazed. We have a 2-week module. People have had 2 weeks to do their work. 90% of the people submit at 11:58 p.m. when the due time is 11:59 p.m. Why wait? Your computer might crash. You might fall asleep. The dog might eat your computer. I don't know. So do things early. Okay. I'm just going to have you look at that because I got 1 minute left. But again, read directions for each assignment. They may change. I change. Sometimes you have to answer to one person. Sometimes you answer to 2 people. Answer the prompt carefully. If you don't understand the prompt, ask the professor. Ask for clarification. Don't be afraid to do that. We are here to help you learn. We want you to learn. We're excited you're here. We're not the enemy. We're here to help. So reach out. And these are just some other things, is the discussion of the paper formal or informal? Do I need to demonstrate that I've read the material and watched the videos and that I can apply that knowledge? We are trying to train you to become independent critical thinkers that have good communication skills in writing and talking. We want you to be able to think and analyze numbers, text, literature. And so it's hard. And it takes time and it takes effort on your part, but we're also here to help. So please don't hesitate to ask for help. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, and she's going to talk about how to communicate with professors, because we are kind of odd people sometimes. And then we'll have questions at the end or throughout.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. B. I just want to tack on this. I just happened to think of this on that last slide of yours. It's a tip because I know of a student who tends to not turn in his work. And if he gets overwhelmed, just doesn't do it, doesn't turn it in. And having taught online and having worked with students on the other side as an advisor, it's easy to just get overwhelmed and say, I'm just not going to do the assignment. But not doing an assignment is a 0. And if we think about how grades are calculated based on averages in the class, if you do the assignment, but it's not all the way done, or it's not, perfect, what if you get a 50? A 50 is way better than a 0, right? So even if it's not your best work and you're not going to get all the points, get as many points as you can, turn something in. Don't not turn something in, because that hurts your average so much worse than turning in something that's a 50. If you just think about how averages work, just a tip that, over the years, I don't think we talk about that because we talk
No,
about.
I was going to say that's a great point. And, you're making me think, because again, like this one class, discussion posts are 50% of the grade. And sometimes people just don't do them. I said, oh my gosh, like you're just throwing away credit. So yeah, do
and
it.
That's what
Do
made me think of
something.
it. I'm teaching a 1 credit seminar this semester, and I've had students not submit that second discussion post if they're supposed to submit twice. And it's, if you just submit, even if it's not full credit, just submit something. It's better than a 0. So just something to keep in mind if you're feeling overwhelmed. Don't completely ignore those assignments. Do whatever you can, and anything's better than a 0. So I'm just going to screen share here. And we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about communication. So, and to kind of elaborate a little bit more on what Melissa's question about the issue you're having, Melissa, in your course where the professor is posting assignments not well in advance, and then maybe not notifying the class of the due dates with enough notice. Let's talk, we'll weave that in and kind of strategize about that as we talk about communication. But let's talk for a minute about quality communication. I don't know that we all give enough consideration to the timing and frequency of when we reach out to people. In the case of being a student in someone's class, I think that a lot of instructors probably would appreciate hearing from students, not just when there's a problem, but maybe when they reach out and say, I really enjoyed this part of the class. I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about this. Can you tell me a little bit more about careers related to this, or anything that's more of a positive spin on the topic? Because think about your instructors as they're passionate about what they're teaching, and they want to engage students to have an interest in what they're teaching above and beyond just getting the grade. So engaging in those conversations could lead to some very enlightening and productive conversations. So how do you approach that? Maybe think about a list of questions you could ask if you are either sending an email or attending office hours on Zoom or in person. Bring some prepared questions. And maybe those questions aren't just, can you please explain chapter 10? Maybe those questions are, tell me a little bit more about how you got to where you are in your career, because I'm really interested in this field and I'd like to learn more about that. So engage in that extra conversation that's beyond what just the content is in the class. And when you do reach out, please be sure that you're professional and clear in your communications. It's very difficult, like Dr. Barganier touched on a few minutes ago, when you get an email from a student and we interact with many students in many different contexts. So it's hard for us to always place immediately where that student's coming from. So if you say, oh, I'm a student in your HSC 343 course, and I'm having a question or an issue with this module, and give a little context to your question first. It really helps us as we read emails to place where you're coming from and be able to respond to you without having to ask clarifying questions. I'm going to kind of move a little bit quickly through this because we have less time than when I originally built this, but things to think about when you are communicating with your faculty or your instructors is there's some I guess, unintended benefits of building that relationship. Think about, you know, a mentorship kind of relationship where maybe you have a network of folks that maybe not right away, but then down the road, you don't know where your, you know, what your goals are yet, but you're thinking down the road, I might want to be able to have somebody to go back to and say, do you remember when I was in your course? You know, I could really use some advice now, or I could use a letter of recommendation. And it would be really great if that person remembers you and has some things to say about you. And how are they going to be able to do that if you haven't built a relationship and attended office hours, or, you know, talked with them about the course, or things surrounding the course above and beyond? What could they say about you, and how do you get them to get to know you as a student and as a person, so that they can talk about you if you want to request a letter of recommendation? But there's also community building, especially in an online class. It's difficult to, you know, we're not face to face, so you might not have those moments, you know, before class or after class on the way in and out of a classroom to have a quick conversation. So maybe those emails here and there, or attending office hours once in a while, helps build that sense of community, not just for you as a student, but also for the instructor to get to know students. So one of my favorite quotes is, you don't know what you don't know. Having these conversations could enlighten you as a student to opportunities, to knowledge, to anything really that you don't really know that you don't know yet. So take those opportunities when you have them. I'm going to pause for just a second to see if there's any comments or any questions. All right. So timing and frequency, again, I get questions from some of my students. I reached out to my course instructor and I haven't heard back. Well, my very first question to them is, well, how long ago did you reach out? So I'll just give a quick overview of a general rule of thumb. If you email somebody on a business day during business hours and you don't hear back within, I would say, 24 to 48 hours, it's okay to nudge them again, but do it politely. Hello, I'm not sure if you saw my last email. I just, you know, wanted to just reach out again and just touch base to make sure that, you know, I'm not missing something. Be polite. If after 2 attempts and 24 to 48 hours goes by, it's okay to then go up the chain of command a little bit. You can email the department chair of the department that course is in and mention, I've reached out, perhaps they're out of the office this week. You know, again, be polite, give them the benefit of the doubt. You will probably get further, but it's okay to approach a department chair if you're not getting a response from your instructors. I'm going to move on just in the sake of time. If you're struggling in the course, I want to talk a little bit about attending office hours. And a lot of times in an online class, all the times of an online class, the office hours are going to be virtual. You may not be able to make the designated office hour time. If that's the case, feel free to reach out. Read the syllabus. The instructor will often explain in the syllabus what those mechanisms of connecting are, if it's office hours, and then maybe a plan B of reaching out and scheduling an individual appointment. But do that. If you're struggling in the course, absolutely reach out to the instructor. Melissa, this is where I kind of want to circle back to your issue in that one course. Absolutely, I agree with Dr. Barganier. Contact the instructor individually, explain that this is a hurdle for you. Ask the question, you know, what do you suggest to me to be successful in your course? Give that instructor a chance to kind of explain some things that maybe are getting lost in translation in the online environment. And hopefully things will improve, for, you know, however that works out. But if they don't, then, you know, we can talk about next steps. When you email an instructor or anyone, any professional staff or instructor on campus, if you're looking to schedule an appointment, in that email, and I can say this from years of experience, I'm happy to get an email from a student that says, can we please meet? But if that email says, can we please meet, period, my very first question back to that student is, well, what is your general availability? because I personally don't use You Can Book Me. I have a You Can Book Me. I prefer not to use it because I like to get the conversation started and kind of triage a little bit over email what the issue is, what we're going to talk about. And that's just my method. But if the student emails me and says, can we please meet? I'm available Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday afternoon. Now I can email back and offer an appointment time right away, and it cuts down a little bit on the back and forth. So those are just a few tips to make communications effective and efficient. Again, provide a little context. I've had students email me and say, I'm really struggling in my course, period. And that's, I'm, giving an example, something to that vague, when it's vague like that, again, I want to reach out back and say, well, what course? Can you describe how you're struggling? Just a little bit more information. So the more information you can provide at that initial email, the more efficient that communication is going to be, and the quicker, hopefully, we can get a resolution for you. If you're struggling in general, but don't have specific questions, again, you can fall back on a few suggested questions for your instructor. What do you consider, I would probably even rephrase this, the most efficient way to spend study time, and let them explain to you, what do you think I should be focusing on in your course? Sometimes if you can attend office hours and you don't have specific questions, but you just feel like you want to absorb a little bit more, ask if it's okay if you sit in and just listen to the other questions that are being asked and hear that exchange. I think if you're open with communication with your instructors, and I'm going to defer to Dr. Barganier on this a little bit, because again, this is just my perception. Everyone's a little different, but I think that would be well received from most folks. I'm seeing a head nod and a thumbs up. Okay. I have a little bit here about email etiquette. And this, oops, went down too far. This goes back, not everyone, especially I think adult students are a little more well seasoned with their email communications, but sometimes I have received emails that are a little bit less professional. And I think it's important for all of us to remember that part of the college experience is honing your skills as a professional, because ultimately you're going to go out into the workforce and be a professional, right? That's kind of one of the goals of getting a college degree. And it's never too early to start practicing being a professional. I like to think of the college setting for all students, as well as all the faculty and staff, as being a professional setting. So just a gentle reminder that that is always appreciated by faculty and staff. And we've talked already about providing context. Here's another example. When we last met, I discussed that I'm interested in an internship for this semester. You offered to assist me. It kind of helps jog our memories, because like I said, Dr. Barganier also mentioned, we have a lot of students. And I think over time we can get to know our students, but it does help when we get an email to kind of just have that context in place. So I believe that's about all I have. I think we went through that. I'm going to go ahead and put this up, but feel free to ask questions. We're here to answer questions for you. So I'm going to stop the screen share here. And if you're not comfortable unmuting, feel free to type something in the chat.
I'm going to just throw something out there real quick. Melissa, Elliot, Michael, are any of you taking courses, or have you had a course where you had just a lot of multiple choice questions on a test?
Yes.
Okay. Like 100 multiple choice, 50, something like that?
I think the most I had for one question was 8.
For a test was 8 or 80?
8. It was one question that had 8 choices.
Oh, no, I'm just talking about in general. Do you have
Oh.
tests that are multiple choice test exams usually?
Yes.
And do you
I've
have,
had
okay,
with 100 questions.
And do you have a textbook for that same course? Like a
No.
traditional textbook? Yes?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Well, this is just a little tidbit I've learned over the years also. I know there's some courses on campus and other places I've worked if you have a traditional textbook and if they only give you multiple choice, this is like a little tidbit of how to get an A. Guaranteed a lot of those questions come from a test bank that comes with that book. Okay. So what happens is a lot of times professors will talk and tell stories and do their own PowerPoint and all this, and it's interesting and great. And then you get a test and you're like, this has nothing to do with what they talked about. Oh yeah, we were supposed to read the book. Yeah, you were supposed to read the book. So I'm always, that was just one other thing that sort of popped up in my memory as people were talking. Buy the book, use the book, look at the high, if it's coming from a test bank, those books are written by people who look at the bolded concepts, they look at the graphs, they look at the charts, they look at the chapter objectives, they look at the chapter questions at the end of the chapter. Guaranteed. And I've done a lot of advising with students over the years, and I'm like, they're struggling with multiple choice exams. I'm like, is there a book? Yes. Did you buy it? Well, no, they never talk about it, but that's where their tests are coming from. Guaranteed. Not always, but 90% of the time. So that's just something to think about. Don't give up on their PowerPoint or don't give up on their lecture, but make sure you read the book and make sure you really focus on those bolded concepts and you understand them. Because yes, Melissa, they might be tricky then. So.
And I'd like to throw in there, because I think this is great advice. A study method that I thought was super effective when I was in college. I was a biology major, and lots of memorization with that, lots of vocabulary, lots of concepts. I made myself quizzes all the time. I went through the textbook and wrote my quiz questions on paper, because back then there was no we had computers, but they were just coming about. So everything was done on paper, wrote my quizzes on paper, but the act of writing the questions made me process the concepts. Thinking about how to frame the question made me process, and all that active learning stuck. So the next day I would take my own quiz and I would be amazed at how much I remembered, because I wrote the questions. And then I would highlight what I didn't get right and then rewrite a new quiz with everything I didn't get right. And then the next day take that quiz. And I would just keep doing that until the quizzes got shorter and shorter, or until the test day came, whatever happened first. But I think that was a very effective way, rather than just reading. Reading is very passive, and it's actively engaging with the material is probably one of the best study tactics you can do. And I'm old school. I would say still write it on paper, but if you want to type it out, that's fine too, because I'm generationally in the old school of thought. But
I think, Lisa, there is some research saying that we do tend to remember more of what we, kinetically, that we touch, that we write. And
right.
so again, I'm old school too. I mean, I handwrite things. I can remember, I can tell you where it was on the page versus if I type it. So you got to find what works best for your learning style. So that was great.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay.
Really appreciate you all joining us this evening.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And this is being recorded. If you can't sleep some night and want to watch it again, that'd be great. But good luck this semester. And I hope you come to some of the other ASAP programs that are up and coming. They're very valuable. They're short, they're brief, but very informative. So thank you so much for coming. Have a good night.